Good morning. You're watching Power Breakfast in the Mumbai News Center on CNBC TV 18. I am Hormuz Fatakia and with me is Vamakshi Dhoria. Vamakshi, good morning. We're taking a bit of a pause today after the breakneck rally that we saw yesterday. But par for the course, you would say that.
Well, absolutely, Hormuz. I mean, the kind of 900-point move that we saw yesterday, of course, I think that it does warrant some bit of pause. But let's see what actually happens and let's get started with the top headlines. Prime Minister Modi says talks with Pakistan and terror cannot coexist. In his first address since Operation Sindoor, he made it clear that India will not tolerate any nuclear blackmail and that operations against Pakistan have only been kept in abeyance and the future will depend on their behavior.
Yes, President Donald Trump continues to claim that he helped broker a ceasefire between India and Pakistan. Speaking at a press conference, the president said that both nations were going hot and heavy and that it was the United States that stopped a nuclear conflict.
U.S. futures under pressure after stocks rally on Wall Street following the U.S. and China agreeing to temporarily slash tariffs. Dow surges almost 1,100 points while the S&P 500 rises 3%.
Asian markets have opened mostly higher because investors are showing optimism after both US and China agreed to slash tariffs for 90 days. The GIFT Nifty, though, as we just mentioned, is implying a slight gap down for our own markets.
Oil prices rise on hopes of an end to the trade war between the world's two biggest economies, while gold falls as risk appetite grows. Let's get you the top story from last evening. Prime Minister Narendra Modi took a strong stance in his first address to the nation since Operation Sindoor began. PM Modi delivered a strong message not only to Pakistan but to the world. Parikshit is here with the key highlights from that speech. Parikshit?
Operation Sindoor has set the tone for a new normal in India's ties with Pakistan. India has made it very clear that if there is any further terror action against India emanating from Pakistan, India is going to hit harder, bigger, deeper and with full force. The Prime Minister gave that message in his address to the nation. He also said that the nuclear blackmail will not work with India anymore and India will no longer differentiate between Pakistani terrorists and the Pakistani state which sponsors these terrorists as well. He also said that Operation Sindoor is not over. Currently, what we are seeing is only a pause on the firing and military action. We're watching Pakistan very closely and any action, any violation from them will be responded to very strongly. In fact, sources telling us that the Prime Minister has instructed all officials that any further act of terror from Pakistan will be treated as an act of war and India will respond accordingly. That came from high-level sources in the government. The Prime Minister also said that it was not India, it was Pakistan which came begging for talks and they asked their DGMO to contact his Indian counterpart after India unleashed hellfire at them on their Pakistani air bases, at least 11 of them on 9th night and 10th morning. And that's when things were paused because Pakistan was begging for India to stop. They would not have been able to sustain this conflict. That was another big message from the Prime Minister. He called out Pakistan for harboring universities of terror such as Bhavalpur and Muridke. He also said that the Indian government, the Indian armed forces have shown their dominance in new age technological warfare as well. He said that the time for made in India weapons has come. Indian-made air defense systems, Indian-made weapons stood out in this conflict over the last 4 days or so. He made no reference to Donald Trump's statement of mediation in the India-Pak conflict. He made no reference to what China was saying in terms of mediation. He said that whatever India did in terms of hitting Pakistani terror groups, hitting Pakistani air bases was a unilateral action. We decided that we will do this. We did not need anyone's permission and no one can mediate in this conflict either. This is something that only India will decide how this is to be done. And if we ever talk to Pakistan, it will only about Pakistan-occupied Kashmir and about fighting terrorism and giving back terrorists who have perpetrated attacks on Indian soil.
Parikshit, thanks a lot for that update. Let us in fact listen in to the Prime Minister's comments that he made on how India plans to deal with the encroaching terrorism from Pakistan hereafter.
अगर पाकिस्तान से बात होगी तो टेररिज्म पर ही होगी। अगर पाकिस्तान से बात होगी तो पाक ऑक्युपाइड कश्मीर पीओके उस पर ही होगी। प्रिय देशवासियों, आज बुद्ध पूर्णिमा है। भगवान बुद्ध ने हमें शांति का रास्ता दिखाया है। शांति का मार्ग भी शक्ति से होकर जाता है। पाकिस्तान को अगर बचना है तो उसे अपने टेरर इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर का सफाया करना ही होगा। इसके अलावा शांति का कोई रास्ता नहीं है। भारत का मत एकदम स्पष्ट है। टेरर और टॉप एक साथ नहीं हो सकते। टेरर और ट्रेड एक साथ नहीं चल सकते और पानी और खून भी एक साथ नहीं बह सकता। हमने पाकिस्तान के आतंकी और सैन्य ठिकानों पर अपनी जवाबी कार्रवाई को अभी सिर्फ स्थगित किया है। आने वाले दिनों में हम पाकिस्तान के हर कदम को इस कसौटी पर मापेंगे।
Well, another round of DGMO talks between India and Pakistan also took place last evening. Parikshit is still with us to tell us the key takeaways. Parikshit?
Essentially, the DGMO talks, or the Director General of Military Operation talks between India and Pakistan, have only discussed how to continue the understanding on stopping the firing and military action that was reached on the 10th of May will continue. There was no political issue, nothing related to the Indus Waters Treaty discussed in that meeting. In fact, sources were telling us that Pakistan this morning wanted to raise all those issues, but that was not accepted by India. There was a discussion on how to continue the commitment that both sides must not fire a single shot or initiate any aggressive or inimical action against each other. India has also warned Pakistan that if any further shot is fired, there will be a very, very strong response from India, and this is going to be the new normal. We've also said that Operation Sindoor is not over. It's only a pause that we're looking at right now. Both sides also agreed that there should be discussions on immediate measures to ensure true production from the border areas and forward areas as well. So this current stoppage of military actions and firing will continue till at least the next round of DGMO talks, and possibly both sides could look at true production from forward areas in the next round of DGMO talks as well. Currently, both sides remain on high alert. Indian Navy, Army and the Air Force are on very high alert all across the LOC, the international border with Pakistan, and also in the Arabian Sea.
Parikshit, thanks a lot for that, summarizing the recent developments taking place between India and Pakistan. We take a short break here on Power Breakfast. Up next, we'll tell you how the overnight global cues will impact our own markets with Power Prep. Stay tuned. Welcome back. It's time to take a look at how our own markets are likely to shape up in today's trading session. But we start off with how the Asian markets are faring this morning. It's a relatively green screen because the major announcements that came in from US and China came in after the Asian markets had shut for trading in yesterday's trading session. The Hang Seng, though, is a bit of an underperformer today, down 1%. The Taiwanese index is up close to 2%. Gains also coming in from Japan, where the Nikkei is up 1.75%. So Shanghai Composite 2 trading above the flat line, 0.4% higher there as well. So it's a positive screen that the Asian equities are reflecting. But the GIFT Nifty is indicating that we may take a bit of a pause today after the record-breaking rally that we saw in yesterday's trading session. So a 121-point gap down is what we are anticipating for our own markets. But since we had a good session yesterday, the Wall Street session was no different, Vamakshi.
Well, absolutely. In the US market, Wall Street ended higher, with the Dow surging over 1,100 points and the Nasdaq surged over 4% after the U.S. China tariff agreement. CNBC's Bertha Coombs gets us a wrap of all the action on Wall Street.
U.S. markets surging across the major indexes in Monday trading after the U.S. and China agreed to temporary tariff cuts. The Dow up almost 3%, the S&P also gaining nearly 3%, while the tech-heavy Nasdaq surged more than 4% on the day. In a major trade breakthrough, the White House announced early Monday that Washington and Beijing have agreed to cut tariffs for 90 days while negotiations continue, in a show of thawing trade tensions between the world's two biggest economies. The trade agreement means that tariffs between the two countries will be cut from 125% right now to 10%. But the Trump administration's 20% tariffs relating to Chinese imports of fentanyl will remain in place, meaning that total tariffs on China will stand at 30%. The pause is set to begin on Wednesday. And President Trump on Monday signed an executive order that sets a 30-day deadline for drug makers to lower the cost of prescription drugs in the United States or face new limits on what the government will pay for them. The order instructs Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to broker new prices for drugs, or a new rule will kick in that ties the price of what the U.S. pays to the lower prices paid by other countries. Now, it's unclear what impact it would have on Americans with private insurance and whether the administration's authority to set prices in this way would actually hold up in court if drug makers choose to challenge the policy, much as they did during the first Trump administration when the administration put out a similar executive order. That's what's happening here in the U.S. Back to you in Mumbai.
Now, in fact, Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, in an interview, exclusive interview to CNBC, said that China and the U.S. identified problems and discussed shared interests to reach this agreement. Listen in.
We tried to identify shared interest. We came with a list of problems that we were trying to solve, and I think we did a good job on that. And again, this is a 90-day pause. For our tariff program, we had a plan, we had a process, and now what we have with the Chinese is a mechanism to avoid an upward tariff pressure like we did last time. So this is a 90-day pause.
Well, that's all the global market action, but back home, the Indian market recorded its best day in the last 4 years. Sensex and Nifty rose 4% each, ending at a 7-month high. BSE-listed companies added market cap of nearly 16 lakh crore rupees. De-escalating tensions between India and Pakistan and easing U.S. China trade tensions lifted the sentiment. Now, let's go across to Vinny for all the stocks that will be in news today. Vinny?
Good morning. So keeping an eye out on the stocks, today we have a whole host of earnings. Firstly, starting with Tata Steel, largely inline numbers is what we could call in. Revenue was down by 4.2%, coming in at 56,218 crores, mainly impacted by the drop in realization across geographies, and this is despite the rise in volume. So keep an eye out on Tata Steel. Raymond, weak set of numbers Raymond Lifestyle, I beg your pardon. That's a weak set of numbers reported by the company. The company's actually swinged into a loss. They've reported a loss of 45 crores versus a profit last year of 235 crores. Revenue Revenues are down by 11.3% as well. Margins, a sharp contraction on that front. Margins just at 1%. And mainly the losses are because of lower revenue as well as higher expenses impacting the overall performance of the company. TD Power, strong set of numbers reported by the company in Q4. Profits up by 82.8%. Revenue up by around 32% as well, coming in at 348 crores. And margins seeing a sharp expansion of more than around 300 basis points. So we could expect a bit of a positive side coming in for TD Power. Carborundum Universal, muted quarter for the company. Profits down by 79%. Revenues just a growth of 1%. Margins contraction is what we're seeing coming in, 12% versus 17.4%. As well as overall, the raw material prices were high. Energy cost was higher. That has led to weak realization impacting the performance of the company. Happiest Mind, slow quarter coming in for the company. Revenue growth on a sequential basis just up by 2.6%. EBITDA seeing a contraction as well. And dollar revenue also is just up by 0.3%. So weak quarter there. Zaggle, good quarter coming in for the company. Margins have at 8.7% versus 8.6%. Revenue up by 22%. And guidance is quite strong. So could see a positive move. And Paytm, we have Antfin, which is looking to sell 4% via block deal. Keep an eye out on that. And K Fintech, we have General Atlantic Singapore Fund that will be selling 6.9% stake via block today. So these stocks will be in focus.
It promises to be an action-packed day with stock-specific reactions, earnings reactions and whatnot. We'll keep an eye out on all of these names. Vinny, thanks a lot for that. And lastly, Sudarshan joins in with cues from the F&O space. Sudarshan, good morning. From 24,000 to 25,000 in a single day. What's the F&O data indicating now?
Good morning, Karma. So last week we saw our armed forces dismantling terror infrastructure in Pakistan. And on the similar line yesterday, we saw market dismantling all the levels. And at the end, it was the best day for our market in last 4 years. And for today, GIFT Nifty is indicating a cut with 100 points. It's like a minor bump after a high-speed drive on the highway. And that has, for yesterday's move, has forced FIs to turn buyers again. We saw FIs buying both in the cash market and the derivative market. And on the option front, action has moved at the higher levels. At the lower level, we saw action at the levels of 24,500. And on the higher level, the action has moved to 25,500. And that becomes the support for Nifty. Support is now seen somewhere in the range of 24,400 to 24,500. And resistance has now moved higher to 25,200. If Nifty breaches 25,200, next resistance comes around 25,500. As far as the stocks are concerned, one stock that has come out of the band is RBL Bank. But two stocks remain in the band are CDSL and Manappuram Finance.
Well, thank you so much for that, Sudarshan. But viewers, let's slip into a very short break. Up next, we get you cues from the commodities market. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. You're watching Power Breakfast on CNBC TV 18. The US President Donald Trump claims that he helped broker a ceasefire between India and Pakistan. Speaking at a press conference, Trump said that both nations were going hot and heavy. He added that the USA stopped a nuclear conflict.
On Saturday, my administration helped broker a full and immediate ceasefire, I think a permanent one, between India and Pakistan, ending a dangerous conflict of two nations with lots of nuclear weapons. And they were going at it hot and heavy, and it was seemingly not going to stop. And I'm very proud to let you know that the leadership of India and Pakistan was unwavering, powerful, but unwavering in both cases, and having these. They really were, from the standpoint of having the strength and the wisdom and fortitude to fully know and to understand the gravity of the situation. And we helped a lot. And we helped also with trade. I said, come on, we're going to do a lot of trade with you guys. Let's stop it. Let's stop it. If you stop it, we're doing trade. If you don't stop it, we're not going to do any trade. People have never really used trade the way I used it. That I can tell you. And all of a sudden they said, I think we're going to stop. And they have. And they did it for a lot of reasons, but trade is a big one. We're going to do a lot of trade with Pakistan. We're going to do a lot of trade with India. We're negotiating with India right now. We're going to be soon negotiating with Pakistan. And we stopped the nuclear conflict. I think it could have been a bad nuclear war. Millions of people could have been killed, so I'm very proud of that.
Now let's now go across to Dia for our special segment Trump Watch, and where Dia will tell us more than what Trump is claiming that he stopped the nuclear conflict. Dia.
A whirlwind of major global developments today, from critical diplomacy in South Asia to a breakthrough on trade with China, and markets roaring in response. After U.S. and China agreeing to pause tariffs on each other for 90 days, President Trump also said he expects to speak with Chinese President Xi Jinping later this week in a move that's being widely welcomed by global markets. The two sides have agreed to temporarily reduce tariffs, a major step toward cooling one of the most high-stakes trade disputes in recent history. The tariff arrangement will see the combined 145% U.S. levies on most Chinese imports reduced to 30%, including the rate tied by fentanyl by May 14th, while the 125% Chinese duties on U.S. goods will drop to 10%. Turning now to the war in Ukraine, President Volodymyr Zelensky said Monday he wanted U.S. President Donald Trump to attend direct peace talks with Russia in Istanbul after Trump said he was thinking of going. Now, over in the tech world, Apple and tariffs are back in the conversation. U.S. President Donald Trump said he spoke with Apple Chief Executive Officer Tim Cook earlier on Monday, just as the iPhone maker was reported to be considering price increases later this year. Apple is weighing whether to raise prices for an iPhone lineup coming in the fall, the Wall Street Journal reported, adding that the company is exploring whether to couple price increases with new features and designs while trying to avoid the perception that any hikes are tied to U.S. tariffs. And lastly, President Trump has declined the use of a private jet offered by the Qatari government. The aircraft was reportedly considered for potential use at the next Air Force One, but the president was quick to clarify, saying, quote, "It is not a gift to me, it is a gift to the Department of Defense," and that he has no plans to use it after leaving office. That's all for today. Now back to you.
Well, thank you so much for that, Dia. But now let's move across to Manisha Gupta, who's now joining in with all the updates from the commodity space. Good morning, Manisha.
Morning, and thank you for that. I'll start with gold prices, where we did see a very sharp reaction coming in after the U.S. and China trade deal conference that we all witnessed. Well, the prices fell 3% yesterday, and they're trading on the weaker side today as well. Well, a couple of factors apart from U.S. and China reaching a temporary agreement to lower tariffs for 90 days. It also has been about dollar index, which is trading at a one-month highs above 101.5. That continues to weigh onto the gold prices as well. But on the other side, the other metals seem to be doing well. For example, copper gained 1% overnight. It's trading above 9,500 right now as well. Remember, the month of April was the worst month for copper as price performance since mid-2022 because of the weak economic data in U.S. and China, but the copper prices seem to be rebounding right now. Same is the case with aluminum trading at a one-month high. Zinc is trading at a 5-week high as well in Asia right now.
All right, Manisha, thank you so much for that update. Losing a bit of sheen is gold prices after sentiments turned risk on, but it'll be interesting to see how prices move from here. But with that, we call time on this edition of Power Breakfast. From Amakshi, me and the team that put this show together, thank you so much for watching. Bazaar Morning Call up next to set you up for the day's trade.